In today's episode, we're speaking to Mark Myers. Mark served in the Marines for 8+ years and received the Distinguished Medal Award and Mette Award for outstanding leadership. Today, he is a founder and the CEO of Peak Profit Solutions, a financial services company that for 15+ years has helped thousands of business owners permanently reduce their tax bills on average of 50% without replacing their CPAs or financial investment advisors. So let's speak to Mark and find out how he changed his life by changing his mindset. Let's find out. Welcome. This is Gull, your money mindset expert. And today I'm so excited. We have the one and only Mark Myers. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Gull. Really appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much for coming and joining us today, Mark. Mark, everyone's heard your intro. They know how fabulous you are, but please, in your own words, tell everybody what it is that you do.
That's a great question. I am a tax savings architect. So I help people reduce that nasty little burden they have, once per year, and do it legally, right? There's a lot of ways to reduce your tax. So that's what I focus on is helping people keep a lot more of what they work really hard for and paying. My motto is don't pay retail, pay wholesale. So tax savings is really an integral part of that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, don't pay retail, pay wholesale. Everyone wants to do savings, don't they, in that regard? So let me ask you, Mark, how did it all begin with you? I suppose no one ever, as a child, grows up thinking I'm going to become a tax specialist. Oh no, that wasn't my dream job. But how did it all end up for you? How did you come into this field?
Great question. Interestingly enough, growing up, I was athletic. I went to school for exercise physiology. I got my master's degree in sports management.
Oh, wow.
So people ask me, how are you now, helping people reduce their taxes? So it was a journey that I went on, but essentially after managing high-end health clubs in New York City and Los Angeles and really understanding how to drive revenue, reduce expenses, increase EBITDA margins, I really became financially minded. I really became owner operator minded. So that started my journey into consulting. And I started consulting with business owners. And what I found over the last decade is that most business owners, and also in general, high income earners in general, don't understand that one of their profit centers is taxes. If they could focus more on reducing their tax, they would basically open up an entirely new profit center. So that was essentially how I kind of back-ended into this. It's interesting. I never thought I would ever be talking about taxes to people. That's for sure.
So let me get this right. So you were really into sports in your high school. I think at one point you mentioned the fact that you played basketball and stuff, and then so you didn't do an accounts degree. You went straight, or did you come back and do it at a later stage? I'm trying to figure it out. So what pushed you into this?
Exactly. So a lot of times people ask, are you a tax attorney? Are you a CPA? Are you an enrolled agent? Are you a financial advisor? And to all those questions, I say, no. My educational background is sports management. I got my master's degree in sports management, but I got my on-the-job training with running multiple locations of high-end health clubs. And it's all about understanding the P&L. It's all about driving the profit centers, managing the expenses, and essentially creating more profit per center. So that was really where my education came. And interestingly enough, most of my business comes from CPAs and tax attorneys. They refer me business, and also financial advisors, but I'm none of them. And a lot of it is because I don't step on their toes. As a CPA, I'm not trying to do anyone's accounting work or bookkeeping work or tax preparation work or tax filing work. I'm not telling people how to manage their money. So financial advisors love me. CPAs love me generally because I'm helping their clients that have the biggest tax problems reduce that burden.
Okay. And so talk me through. So are you now, you run your own company now?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
So you transitioned successfully, may I add, from being an employee to being self-employed and now I'm assuming you employ other people and have a team of people working with you. So talk us through that transition. So if you've gone in, if you've developed in the sports world and you've gone into, doesn't matter what role, but the employment role, and you were very successful at it, how
when or how did you transition of it, and when did you start thinking of, okay, I can work for myself? A lot of people have that dream, but it's just that it's a dream. To actually make it a reality and to take action on it, it's a whole new ball game, and it requires risk. And funny enough, because I mean, as a money mindset person, I get a lot of accountants as my clients, a lot of them, right? And I tell you, these people are geniuses with other people's money and absolutely appalling with their own. And I know the reason why. It's a mindset, it's an energy thing. So I understand completely why. They're baffled by it. So, and they are the worst people to start a business. My experience of them anyway. They mess up so many times, even if they do take risk. So how did you going for actually transition over quite successfully? Talk us through that.
It's interesting. I think most people have read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right?
Yeah.
So that's a pretty common book for
Yeah.
a lot of people. And growing up, I didn't necessarily have Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but my parents divorced when I was really young. So I had two sets of families. I had my mom, my stepdad, and my dad and my stepmom, and then of course the two sets of grandparents, the four sets of I mean, it was really great around the holidays.
I can be sure, yeah.
But the net result was I saw two pictures. Like my father was he was like an executive in a telephone company who was with the company for 37 years. He was like the 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars. When you look at your badge, how many stars you have for your time and grade. And he was a great planner with regard to, this is how much we have coming in. This is my next my next promotion, etc. And then I saw my stepdad on the other side, who was a general contractor and developer, and he was always wheeling, dealing, buying land, selling land, buying this farm, cutting it into, parcels, building spec homes, So I got to see the entrepreneur side growing up, and also the executive kind of focused, more structured side. And I always lean more towards the entrepreneurial side. So I got to learn from both growing up, and I think that I got a taste of the I was never truly an executive at the health club company I worked with, but I did run the stores. Like they always had a manager that would run the store, and they were responsible for everything, everything, right? So I was like an owner operator. So that's really what I really understood how to run a business, by opening up these locations and running these club companies in the large metropolis cities, because I was responsible for the profitability of the store, and I was actually bonused on that as well. So I really got to know quickly, like, okay, if this store doesn't produce profit and successfully produce profit, then I'm not making a lot of money. So that was really important to me.
So that's actually very, very handy. So you got to see both sides of it. A lot of people have read the book, but I think a few actually understand it, and even a few actually implement the principles. And I remember when I think you also have an affinity towards leaning towards one or the other. I think, and as I've got older, I think, why don't more people want to do the business? But because some people are just not designed for it. I think they are designed to work in a certain way, and risk averse or risk appetite being one of the major factors. I mean, I think I'll make a terrible employee. Oh my God, I wouldn't employ me. Seriously, wouldn't employ me. But I am a damn good business person, and that's probably the reason why the secret to my success. Somebody want to come and employ me? Bloody hell, don't. But I have people who are absolutely fantastic people in my team, but they would make terrible business owners. Absolutely awful. And so this is why I think both people combined, I'm no better than my team members, and they're no better than I, but together as a team, we work well. I think this is very important when you know who you are and know your skill sets and and appreciate it. But still, if you are starting off as an employee, and yes, I think you got a taste of it because bonus is a bonus. If your income is related to bonus, you perform better. Still, taking the time to actually think, okay, no, now I'm going to be on my own 2 feet, and I'm going to be responsible for the livelihood for myself, my family, and then my employees. It's a major step, and I think we underestimate the courage it takes to take a leap of faith like that. How did when you decide to go and have your own business, and I'm asking this question for a reason, because a lot of people listening to this podcast would be in the same boat, thinking, I want to take a leap of faith, but I've got bills to pay, and I've got, my kids have this, and so most of these have like yourself, a kind of lifestyle that they're used to, because they're executives and they make a lot of money and stuff. And so they think, I can't, it's not just me stepping down, I have my family to think about. So taking that leap of faith requires financial adjustment. So how did you plan for it? Did you have a plan in motion? Do you have an exit strategy? How did you plan for it?
Yeah, great question, Gull. I would say, initially my plan was um, to lean on my spouse who was working at the time and to just downsize everything
Okay.
and say I can make this transition. Because what I did was I left the club company industry. I left, a job that was paying quite well
Yeah.
and said I'm going to go into consulting. And because I understand how business owners think, that's who my focus is, right? Um, and interestingly enough, I did that in 2007, 2008. And it wasn't a great time to be focusing on finances. And also, the way that I did this,
remember.
it was horrible. I mean, it was, the subprime, bubble popped, and it was just
Yeah.
everybody. I mean,
Oh yeah,
so
I
here I
remember
am,
the crash of 2007, 2008.
yes,
I remember it all too well. I had property which I drew.
it was not a good time for me to go away from a position that was paying me quite well and to start consulting with business owners that were struggling. And also, because I think I was overly confident. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say egotistical, but I thought that I couldn't lose, right? Because I was so good at everything I had done at that point, athletics, sports, you know, finishing my undergrad and master's degree. I mean, I worked as a graduate assistant at the University of Florida and ran all their sport programs and workout, their strength and conditioning programs. And then I went to New York and I was running these big fancy fitness clubs. I don't know if you've heard of the Equinox clubs, but there's a nice Equinox in London actually. Helped them open a lot of clubs. And basically when I transitioned over, I felt like I was just going to win. I didn't need to go work with any other organization, even though it was a completely new skill set for me, right? I'm going to go into consulting with business owners and start. And initially I was working on insurance. I was like high level insurance plays like buy, sell, key man, premium finance, all these different insurance products that you can't get from your average insurance provider. But I decided not to go work with a company, not to find a mentor, and just do it myself. And I'll tell you, the timing and trying to do it yourself crashed. So my
Oh.
wife actually, she said, "Hey, we're having our first baby," and I was like,
Oh.
"Fantastic!" So now she couldn't work. She couldn't work, and I was struggling on my side. So what did I have to do? For a couple of years, I had to go back into the fitness and wellness industry, which was fine because the good news is I'd never burned bridges, and they welcomed me back. Equinox, and then another club company, and I started working for them for a couple of years before I could transition back in a second time.
And so how do you do things differently second time around?
Well, I actually did a lot more work under mentors prior to relaunching. So essentially, I found an insurance expert. I found some tax attorneys. I found other CPAs that I could learn from and essentially work in their structure. Although, because I'm not a good employee, as you mentioned, even though I think I did well in the club company environment, I was always the one that was kind of bucking the system a bit, like, oh, we should be doing it this way, not that way. This is, look, and I was always trying to do things a little bit differently. And I would say they were successful, but they were a lot of times frowned upon by, the VPs or even
Yeah.
the COO, CEO, like, you shouldn't be doing that. You need to be doing it this way. But I do like your numbers.
So okay, so that's and what else? So what else apart from mentoring? What else did you plan? Did you make a financial plan? Do you have an exit strategy again? Okay, I'm going to come back out, and this time I'm going to do this differently. Do you have a plan for that?
Yeah, so this is interesting, and of course, this might be applicable to others, especially if you're. Well, it doesn't mean that if you're changing industries, you don't have to change. But what I did was I backed out of the club company industry, but I utilized my ability because I had an exercise physiology background, I had a sports management background. I understood the one-to-one training element. And in growing, I did have certifications, et cetera. So what I did was I went back to just training. I'm like, I can actually personal train early in the mornings or a little bit in the evenings. I can do it on the weekends, and that's going to give me a little base of income just to get past that little pain point. So I guess what I'm saying is I had a part-time job while I was basically building my full-time, business. And once I finally got to the point where I had consistent income in my full-time business, then of course I stopped doing my early morning part-time work and my evening part-time work and my weekend part-time work. But that was really, it was a lot of struggles through that time, but it worked out really well.
But it paid off. I mean, when I'm listening to them, I'm smiling because what you've described is no different to many other people. You go without mentors, even if the crash didn't happen, I don't see, I mean, it's very rare for someone to hit, a sixer, as we say, at the ballpark. It tends to be you get no balls, plenty of those, and you in flat ones as well. I'm using sports analogy because you're a sports person, I suppose. But when I go to my son plays a lot of cricket. When I go and watch his, of course he's a brown person, so he would play cricket. Just throw that in there because right, he's not being really racist, but all brown people love cricket, most of them anyway. So I go to watch his cricket matches and stuff, and I see them. And if I see individuals, that's how we are. It doesn't matter what area you're in. You are this person who's trying to learn this new skill set. And yes, you have to be in the game, so they have those matches. But a lot of the times they have to train, and they're in there with the coaches learning to bowl fast, turn. I don't know what rubbish they do, and and bat like this and do that. And I'm using this analogy because that analogy works in every area of your life, and professional one especially, because when you are learning a new skill set, it's not just the fact that you have some talents, but those talents have to be polished, and that's what mentors do, either through employment when you go into new employment, or when you set your business up again, you need to have mentors for that. And you're not going to walk in there with all the skill sets. Running a business has so many other things attached to it, not just being able to do that particular task, but managing it, running the business, people skills, leadership skills, foresight, financial forecast, and all those sort of wonderful things that we don't really think about. We don't want to think about. But we have to, because in order for us to have a successful business, you need to have that. And for every single aspect, you need to get a mentor or somebody who can do that work for you. Either delegate it, or if you want to do it yourself, then you have to learn the skills. And that's why I think that the second time around it made more sense to me, because the first time around, I could have told you that, yeah, you're gonna plummet. Not just because of circumstances. You can blame the 2007 crash, but there would have been people even in 2007 crash, 2008 crash, who've done really, really well, coming into their own businesses, and people did profit really well. It's finding, the right support at the right time to doing whatever you need to do. I mean, this has been the major thing. So yes, you need to, the story, the takeaway for me from your story is, which is reinforced again, is have a mentor when you're starting something new. It will cut your learning time by exponentially. I can't even put a number. It won't even be half. It'll be more than that. It really will. And two, the confidence you have to stay, because a lot of times when you don't have mentors, you don't have the support, you give up. A lot of people give up too quickly. And I think that if you have the support, you won't. And thirdly, exactly what we did, have an exit strategy. So some people can have a financial backup, a buffer zone, but I like your strategy better. Okay, let me have a side business. Let me do something which I'm going to do while I'm working on my passion business. And this works much better, because then you carry on doing it, because your buffer zone can finish. And then you're still going to be stressed like, oh, I've only got 50,000 left, 40,000 left, 30,000 left. Whereas if you have regular income coming in from something small, and that means sacrificing your evenings, your weekends, and your mornings at times, as you have, but then that's the payoff that you do for building a successful business as you have done now. And this is where a lot of people don't want to do. They don't want to sacrifice the weekends and the evenings. And I think that's a shame. I have run multiple businesses, and I put some of them on hold. Like my coaching has been put on hold temporarily while I work on this new business that I've started. And for that business, because it's far away, I'm traveling 7 to 8 hours a day. I'm going in the mornings, I'm coming back in the evenings, because I'm not willing to sacrifice my time with my children, so I'm not staying over there. My kids need me, so I'm home. But I'm also working the business, so I travel there twice a week, and that's 6 hours minimum travel, sometimes 7.5, 8 hours. Or obviously both ways coming home. People don't want to give that payment. They don't want to pay the price. So now here's my question to you after that long speech. What's your advice to people who say, well, it's okay for you, Gull, it's okay for you, Mark, but I don't think I can do this. I've got too many commitments, and I've got this. Basically, people who make excuses because they're not willing to pay the price. What's your advice on them?
It's kind of like your future self versus your current self. I think that it's really important for people that feel like they're caught, whether it's on the little mouse wheel, the little rat wheel, or
most of the time they're on
is
they're on the hamster wheel. They are.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're frustrated and they essentially, but they're saying, I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, of course, if you can't do it, you're not going to, right? I think there was a famous saying, like, whether you think you can or you think you can't,
Henry Ford,
you're
yeah.
always
If you think
right.
you can, yeah, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. Simple as that.
Right. But a lot of times it's looking at your future self and projecting, like, in 10 years or 15 or 5, 10, 15 years, do you want to be in the same place? How are you going to feel? How are you going to operate? Do you look at yourself in 5, 10, 15 years and your future self, where you're ultimately where you want to be? You have the time freedom that you want. You have the lifestyle that you want. You have you're doing what you'd like to do. So what's the bigger driver for you? Is it a future self that's stuck in that hamster wheel, or your future self that's actually where you want to be? And you have to give up things to get there. I mean, there's in life, you're never going to get everything you desire without essentially earning it and working for it. And if you
Yeah.
don't work for it, guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose it. I mean, you've heard the stories. I mean, I think, what is it, 90% of lottery winners end up
Oh
broke
yeah.
again within the
Yeah.
next,
5 years.
and professional athletes as well. A lot of they grow up, I mean, they're really great at what they do, but they have no idea how to manage finances. So these are times, and I'll tell you a little secret. It's not really a secret, but one of the things that really I learned a lot from is when I was in this window of time, work making a little bit of money, but working on, the business and the career. Obviously, you're always looking for ways to make a little bit more money because you don't have a lot, especially when you're only working mornings, weekends, evenings, and you're not even working, in a full-time career. Well, I started doing, network marketing. And I'll tell you, I'm not I'm not a network marketing fan. Like, I would never do network marketing again because I just over time I understood things that I liked about it, things I didn't like about it. But I will tell you this: almost every network marketing company has phenomenal personal growth and personal development, and they're always coaching people to break through their limitations and work through their fears. So I picked up a lot of personal growth from these different network marketing companies that I dabbled in. And that was actually helpful as well. So I guess where I'm going is, if someone doesn't have not just a mentor for their specific trade or what they want to do, but ultimately something to plug into that gives you more diversity of personal growth. Like, obviously, I think everybody's heard of Tony Robbins. I've gone to his events before. They were strategic in kind of pushing me forward and understanding how to, just break through fears and drive through and focus on the important parts, and knowing that failing is natural, right? You fail forward, right? You should be failing forward, the biggest successes are people that fail the most times. So those were things that I picked up along the journey. But the most important thing is the last part. So I found our creator and our, the creator of the universe, right? And I really understood that relationship. And that was the last relationship I understood after all this seeking. And he said, you know what? You don't have, basically all the pretenses you had in your mind to be this and be that and do this and do that. You don't need it. You only need one thing. And interestingly enough, when I let go of this tenseness to get to this certain point and I focused on our creator, it was interesting. Like, the success just flowed, it just poured in. So it was amazing. And I was just like, well, thank you. Thank you, y'all, for bringing that gift. It took me a journey to get there, but so that's a little bit about how I've gotten to where I am now.
Wonderful. I mean, there's a couple of points I would like to pick up on that. One, I agree with you. Fail fast, fail forward. Two things I have, and I don't know absolutely anyone who hasn't failed multiple times and have fallen flat on the face, honestly, back on the bum or on the face, literally. And humiliations involved, and financial losses, and tears, and blood, sweats, and everything else is involved. But it's all part of the process. It's all part of the process. And I love that you just said about the creator, because I'm really, really, really spiritual. I believe nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you. And even those things you think are failure are actually your lessons, and they're carving your character. They're making who you are. I was speaking to someone yesterday, and I was I mentioned to them that, you know, my time for this, my history is pretty horrific. In terms of where I've been through, but I have not an ounce or even atom's worth of regret or any part of my life, or have any ill feelings towards absolutely anyone, because I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't go through those experiences. So, and my failures as well, my business failures and everything, whether my fault or somebody else's fault, whoever you want to blame, it doesn't really matter. If I didn't go through those failures, I would not have the character that I do right now and the mission that I have right now. So I think you need to, you know, just reinforcing what you said, build that connection with divine energy. I agree. But I also have that idea where it is you want to go. And if you are going to fail, so what? You only fail at something if you stop trying. So get up and go, and then have a plan. I think plan's very, very important. You can't just jump without a plan. You know, as Jim Rohn's always said, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And I completely agree with that. On that note, let's wrap this up. Mark, tell us, where can we find you? How can we connect you on the internet?
Profit Solutions, that's my website. And that's a great place. You can actually pick up case studies for the type of work I do. You can actually read some testimonials, and you can also, if you ever wanted to chat, I've got my calendar right there. So I invite people to schedule a short meeting just to chat, particularly about their situation, and it's a lot of fun. That's the starting point for getting to know each other.
Wonderful. So if you're listening to us on the podcast, the link for Mark Myers will be on the show notes. And if you're watching us on YouTube, down in the description section, we'll have all the links that he just mentioned, and we'll link him up with his social media up there as well. Go check him out and see how he can help you. Well, today, thank you so much for being such an amazing guest, Mark. We'll have to have you back for Money Talkies, but thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much for the invite. It's been fun.
Thank you. And thank you for listening to me and Mark today on Friday Feature. I will be back with another amazing guest, finding out how they change their life by changing their mindset. Until the next time, this is Gull signing off. Take care and bye for now.